Hi, I'm Nicole from the Halliburton County Public Library, and today we're going to be doing Easter candle sticks. So here's what I did for my example, and here's what you're going to need. So you'll need 2 wooden discs. So I have my 2. These are actually 4 pieces of just really thin wood I've glued together. Some dowels, I have some here. Some plastic eggs, I have 2 different sizes. I have some smaller ones and I have some bigger ones. Pencil, eraser, measuring tape to mark the wooden discs of where you're putting the dowels. Something to cut the dowels. And I have hot glue and hot glue sticks. One last thing you'll need is a drill bit and a drill. You can also choose to put ribbon on this if you so desire. You can also paint the discs if you so desire. Okay, so let's get started. I have a cordless drill I'll be using. So I highly recommend doing the eggs first for this part. That way you can actually use them for doing a template for the dowels on the discs. So to do that, I pop the egg apart. I drill right where there's usually an indent right in the middle. So when I did the example, I found out it takes a very long time to drill the plastic without cracking it. So the way I got around this is I actually heat up the drill bit with just a little bit of a flame from a candle or a lighter. So if you do that, be very careful, but it does make it a lot easier. And while you're drilling, put something underneath of it that you're not going to care about wrecking. I just have a old tin lid. So just off screen, I've actually heated up the drill bit already. And you do want to do both sides. So one thing I forgot to mention is, depending on the size of your dowel, is the size of the drill bit you need. So my drill bit's just a tiny bit bigger than the dowel, but not all that much. So I have a very lightly drawn, dotted out triangle on these. So the reason I suggested doing the egg holes first is so that you can kind of line up where your dots are on the eggs. The reason I'm doing 2 different size eggs, I'm going to be doing 3 different sticks. So on this, you can kind of see I have the center one, and then I have 2 dowels on the sides, and they're kind of angled. The reason those 2 dowels are on the side is when I put a candle on it with the size of the dowel I used, it couldn't hold the weight. It started to bend over. So the 2 dowels on the either side of it hold it still. But I can't do a center one with 2 eggs on the other side. So different design is needed. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of taking the egg and I'm finding where the center is for that. So center for that one is right about there. And then I'm going to take this and do the same thing. If you decide to paint the wooden pieces, just keep in mind that you may want to do the drilling first, even just a rough one. That way you can mark all you want on the board and it won't matter. So with the same drill bit you used for the holes in the egg, you're going to use it for the wood. Try not to go all the way through. So if you're going this way in, try to go about there. So about 3/4 of the way in. So I have gone through on this side. So if you happen to just, and it's only on one disc, make sure this disc is on the bottom. You won't be able to tell the difference. I'm just doing a quick fit, make sure everything fitting okay and all that, so. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just throw a coat of paint on these, and then I will be, okay, so I'm just going to paint these white. Like I said, you don't have to do this, but with the lines are really noticeable, I'm painting them. So if you paint them, I am going to have to do 2 coats, and your paint gets in the holes, you can just re-drill the holes. You're going to know where they are, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, and I'll be back once I finish painting these and do a second coat. So I've done the second coat and I've painted both sides of it. They're dry, so what I've done is I've just re-drilled the holes so that there was no dried paint clogging them. And now I'm just going to thread on the eggs onto the dowels. I've had to drill out another 2 eggs for the one side here. So I'm just gonna tilt this so you can see. The top green egg is just a little bit lower than the purple eggs. So I'm gonna be adding just a little bit of hot glue and then between those big eggs just to add a little more height to it so it's a little more balanced. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug in my hot glue gun and hot glue the bottom of the sticks in. Now you could use wood glue or other glue. Hot glue I find dries really quickly, and because there's not a lot of weight, it's fine. So all I do is I take the hot glue gun and I just fill the hole with hot glue. Stick the dowel in it. And I hold it until it's dry, or at least cooled enough that it will hold itself up. I do move the eggs up the dowel just as I'm doing this so that the eggs don't get stuck. The next step is to cut these down just a bit. So you want enough that it'll fit in there. So I tend to go, depending on how deep the holes are, how thick your piece is, go about 1/2 centimeter from the top of the eggs. Okay, and then I just fill these all in at once and put it on. Okay, so now that this is glued on, I'm gonna flip this and I'll show you something. So the one hole I did, I'd shown you, I went through the wood. So that's this one here. When I put hot glue in it, it went through and it pulled some of the paint off when it stuck to the table. It's fine, it's on the bottom, not overly concerned. Just wanted to let you know about that. So the purple eggs are all good. I'm gonna leave them as is. So for the bigger eggs, I'm just gonna take a little bit of hot glue and I'm just going to put a little bit around. I'm gonna let that sit for a second. So one of the options when you have a big gap, you can actually take the ribbon and make a bow. I'm gonna leave it. It doesn't really suit what I'm doing, but that is an option for you to do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the ribbon and I'm actually just going to crinkle it. This one here has a wire on both ends. So I just have a little bit sticking out and I'm just going to pull it out a bit. What I want is just a little bit of a kind of a draped effect. It's kind of like that, just so it's not straight down. I'm just going to put a little bit on hot glue. And this is just until I get it set the way I want to. And then I will put it in place. Okay, so that's it. Another possibility is, on the example, I actually put what's known as seed beads glued to the eggs. However, so there's different colored seed beads on the eggs, but when I used the white glue, either I didn't use enough, but they just pop off like crazy, and I'm not stuck on that with having cats and dogs, so I avoided that this time. Okay, so that's the craft. So, forgot to mention, the eggs, you can also use the plastic egg, which I've used in the Easter egg tree. Paint them and put them on, but just like the wooden discs, I suggest painting them after you put the hole in them. Otherwise, you can have issues. Also, they're a lot harder to put a hole in. Tried it. So thank you for joining me. I hope you had fun watching. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you again next week with another craft. Until then, have a good